afternoon, everyone. My name is Victor Nyongesa. I'm currently the program manager at Agenda. Welcome to today's show, the speaker's show. And today we are privileged to host our guest. I don't want to mention her name. I think she will introduce herself. And through this discussion, we are going to have a candid conversation on young people in this country and politics. We are also going to have a look at the current politics within the region, the different countries, Kenya, Uganda, and also narrow down to the recent election that happened in Uganda. So I want to take this opportunity to welcome my guest, who is going to introduce herself and briefly talk about what she likes, what she does, and anything else she feels like talking about.
Yes, so thank you very much. My name is Ruth Asiimwe, and I'm from Uganda. I'm a friend of young people in Uganda and across the region. I currently work as the technical director for Youth Line Forum. I'm also a feminist, and that means I fight for equality of women, and everywhere I find a woman and make sure that together we are carrying each other's hands. And as a Youth Line Forum, we work towards building a stronger youth sector in Uganda. I'm also a writer, by the way. I'm an author and a member of the Uganda Female Writers Association. Thank you.
Good. You talked about being a feminist. My question to you is, why are you a feminist?
Yes, so why am I a feminist? I think I get that question a lot. Every time I tell someone that I'm a feminist, they always ask me why. Because I think there's a lot of negative connotations around feminism.
Yeah.
And I think for me, my being a feminist stems from the time I was conceived. So when my mother was pregnant with me, she had a very healthy pregnancy, and everyone kept on telling her that you're going to give birth to a baby boy. That's because her pregnancy was good, there were no complications. And the day that she gave back to me, when she pushed, then she was very sad. And the person with her at the hospital, that is the midwife, asked her, you know what, why are you sad? It's a baby girl. And she responded that she's sad because my father was fighting in the NRM movement. He was fighting in the bush at that time, and she wanted to reward him, with a baby boy. So being born female, I was not rewarded enough for my father who was fighting. And I think it really points to a broader picture on how society perceives women from the time we are conceived to the time we come down on earth. So I know what it means to be a woman. I know what it means to be a woman in the community, a woman at the top leading an organization. I know what it means to be a woman in politics. I know what it means really being a woman. I'm familiar with our challenges, and just because I'm familiar with that makes me stand out proudly and say I am a feminist, because I want us to have that kind of equality between women and men, and for our basic rights to be recognized. That is why I'm a feminist.
Wow.
Yeah.
A nice background about yourself and why you're a feminist. My experience working with young people and even just engaging with different people in this country, I've realized that feminism is misinterpreted. Have you experienced that? And what's your advice to young people in this country about feminism?
Yes, so feminism is definitely misinterpreted. So when you say you're feminist, people think that you're fighting to take over space for a man, and you're against the creation of God, created as men and female, and you're advocating for, and of course, in African society, we look a lot at the Bible, and the Bible tells us that the man is the head of the family. So when as a woman you come out and say, you know what, both of us can have equal rights, equal participation, equal representation. You can do this, I can also do that. So when you come to say that, they look at you as though you're trying to change the status quo of the society. That's why it is misinterpreted. But I think I would urge people to learn more about it, but it's not about taking space that is meant for men. It's about recognizing that even as women, there is a lot that we can do, just as well as our men counterparts do.
Okay. Now, as we move to the main topic of the day, Perhaps maybe you can just share brief some of the achievements you've made for just being famous in Uganda.
Yes, so some of the achievements I have made being a feminist, first of all, in a very male-dominated space, because the youth sector in Uganda is very male-dominated, but I've been able to lead in the youth space because not just of being a feminist, but because I understand that as a woman, I need to be here, I need to do this, and I need to work as hard. But then also there are issues around gender-based violence that we've been able to talk about that in the past we were not being articulated. So we are able to articulate those issues. And then also because the naming myself as a feminist is very political. So people ask why, and then you start talking about the dangers and challenges that women go through. So we've been able as the women and as the feminist movement to be able to articulate the issues that different women are going through, talk about issues around gender-based violence, talk about issues of equality, being able to train women leaders right out from the university. So we see more women leaders coming up just as the men. But then also we see women putting up and taking up spaces in politics. They're now more involved in political participation. We see more women now in the media. So, they're now comfortable and they believe in themselves and they're like, what, as a woman, I can do this. And I think that has been an achievement for us.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to narrow down to our topic of the day, where we are looking at young people within the region and politics. And my first question to you is, what's your view about politics in the region? Perhaps you can also narrow down to Uganda.
Yes, so my view of politics in the region is very, very radical. But I will save my radical comments for now. But I think I want to start from the fact of appreciating that as the region we have made some great improvements when it comes to issues of political participation, democracy, and sustainable development. We see Tanzania the other day made into a middle-income country. So there is some quite some progress when it comes to issues of political participation. But also largely, when the progress is there, largely we see there is a lot of dictatorship across the region. I'll give an example of Uganda, where I come from. We are still struggling with the failed transition. So the boy was talking about that was 35 years ago, when I was being born and Museveni was coming to power, and 35 years later, we are still here with Museveni. We are just coming out from an election which was very, very dictatorial. It was almost like a military takeover. That's what we are seeing in Uganda. And I think this was not so much different from what happened in Tanzania. I can clearly tell when I followed what was happening in the election in Tanzania. I can tell that Museveni in Uganda copied a lot from Mbuvi in Tanzania. The opposition candidates were not allowed to go out and campaign. And there's a lot of shutdown in media. The day of election, the internet was not working for us in Uganda for about a week. Social media was shut down. So there is that kind of dictatorship at that level in Uganda. When you go to South Sudan, for example, because East Africa is Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, South Sudan, Rwanda, and Burundi. When you go to South Sudan, up to now, they have failed to transition. I can say they have not yet even had their first election in South Sudan. Every time it's being postponed. And the story there is quite sad. Burundi had the election last year as well. And they did an election amidst lockdown, and everyone was like, Burundi should not have gone to an election in the first place. So there is that dictatorship. We see a lot of military takeover. We see a lot of the countries failing to transition from one president to another. However, all that being said, I believe there is still hope, and hopefully when we come to the Kenyan election in 2021, we will be able to transit to another president, and then we can be able to pick up some lessons from Kenya. But yes, that is the state of politics and governance in the region. And of course, parties underlying all that is the civic space. So there's a lot of shifting civic space. We are not allowed to speak out. There are a lot of laws that have been put in place. For example, in Uganda, we have the Public Order Management Act, where you cannot go out more than 20 people and, and talk, whether it is politics or the other, you have to get approval from government. So government is now deciding what is it that you talk about and how do you politically organize. So a lot of laws are here in Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania as well, even the rest of the region, which is affecting the quality of democracy and governance in the region.
Thank you. I've been following politics in Uganda, and especially in the previous election. And especially I've been keen with the posts that are online, Facebook, Twitter. And I've realized that despite Museveni being the president for over 30 years, I realized that there are still young people still believe in this manifesto, young people who believe in his principles, and still, I believe some of them voted for him. With that challenge, is it a challenge or it's a positive thing to them? But it also poses a challenge to other young people who are in Uganda. What's your view about young people engagement in politics in Uganda?
Yes, so I struggle with the narrative that there are people who still vote for Museveni. It is possible that they are there, but I think from the last election, evidently people did not vote for Mbuvi. But of course, the election was marked with a lot of rigging. So to the media and to the rest of the community, Mbuvi won an election, but that election was not legitimate, and people were struggling to vote for him. But back to the question on young people's participation. I think in Uganda this time around, we saw a lot of young people participating in politics. I could say that in the last election, young people's participation was limited to just, handing of posters, being part of campaign rallies, shouting, blah blah blah. That was their role. But I think at this time around, there was quite a difference from the 2016 election and the 2021 election, specifically for young people. So for the first time, of course, there were those that stayed in their place of hanging posters, rallies, and all that, observing and being polling agents at the polling centers. But also this time before the election, we saw many young people involved as election candidates. They offered themselves, and I think for me that was a good thing. There are a lot of under 40s, under 35 offering themselves, whether it is at local level, that is local council 1, 2, 3, or at the district level as the district chairperson, or even at the member of parliament level. So many of young people offer themselves as the political candidates, but then also in terms of civic awareness, we saw many young people going out on radio and talking about participation of the fellow young people in the elections. But also we saw they had this vested interest. And I think it was mainly because of one of the candidates, we call him Bobby Wine. Everyone knows him as Bobby Wine. So we call it in Uganda the Bobby Wine factor. So Bobby Wine being under 40, young people were inspired by him. They saw that actually they could be a Bobby Wine of tomorrow. They saw hope for them to offer themselves as candidates, but then they also went in big numbers to vote for him. They also went in big numbers to vote for other young people who were offering themselves as candidates. They went in big numbers to protect the vote. Even after the election, they continued getting involved in the conversation of what happens next now that the election is done. So the participation of young people this time around was much better compared to how it was in the last election.
Yes. Now, talking about the Bobby Wine factor and how it impacts young people in the country, and also looking at these other political seats, how, from your experience, will young people go for those other political seats, or is it just the only presidency seats that Bobby Wine was running for?
Yes, so they also voted for members of parliament. They went and voted for members of parliament, but they also offered themselves as members of parliament to be voted for. And for Bobby, it was more on voting, but so the Bobby factor was an inspiration, not just them voting for him, but also them seeing themselves that this is something that I can do as a young person. And the Bobo, in fact, apart from him being young, he also comes from the ghetto. He does not take away from home. So the young people who are coming from, I do not want the young people who are coming from the ghetto, because it will sound so wrong. But some of us, the young people who are coming from not so rich family background, we saw that actually just the way I am, it is possible for me to be able to do it. And also the way he transitioned, the day he announced, that I'm going to go for president, and he started that the people power movement, from the day he announced up to the time we see him on the ballot, there has been a lot of transition. So there are young people who could see if Bobi Wine is transitioning, from the first day on the radio when he cannot stop what physical policy is, to the day when he's getting the highest score, which is not even given to my government. So people thought that even me, I can be able to do it. The process will help me become a better leader. And the young people were inspired by that, and they just went ahead so that at least they can have that change in their personal lives.
Okay. Now, looking at the Kenyan context, lack of finance has been the main challenge, the hindering factor why there's underrepresentation of young people in parliament and even in the county assembly. Is this the same case in Uganda?
Definitely. It is the same for Uganda. So the politics now is highly commercialized, especially from the time, even when we have to look at when someone gets to parliament, the time you're going in as a member of parliament, your constituency always equally, my daughter has no school fees. They're asking you, why don't you come in for burial? So there are things that you're expected to do for people which have zero to do with policy. They will not judge you when you go to parliament and you do not speak, but people will judge you when you do not come for burial. They will judge you when you do not pay school fees. They will judge you when you do not go for fundraising. So we have people in parliament who are doing everything else apart from policy advocacy and representation of their people. And that particular aspect is also very expensive for those who are in parliament. Now, when you come to the time when you offer yourself, the day you say, as Ruth Asiimwe, I'm going to be member of parliament for seat, that day alone, you need to give people money. When you go to speak, people will be touching their throat. This days you call it sanitizer, Where is the sanitizer? So it is a very expensive process. So from the time you offer yourself, and sometimes maybe you come from also the transport costs alone, when you cannot be transport, and then you go radio. Paying for radio is very expensive, and of course the radios, if you pay for election, normally they charge a certain amount of money, they will double that. When it comes to TV, they will actually triple the amount. So just of course from traveling to paying for media to every time you go somewhere, you have to give people with money, and young people cannot afford that. I know people spend about I'd say $50,000 in an election. They can spend $150,000 on the actual polling day. They can spend even $1 million just on an election, and young people do not have that money. And also the way the system is, if you look at the system is in Uganda, and you notice for the rest of the region, the unemployment rate is very high. So, and away from the unemployment rate being high, and therefore young people do not have the money, you find that even the laws that the government puts in place. I'll give you an example for Uganda in particular. When we are going to elections, the government puts in a lot of money for registration, about 3 million Ugandan shillings. So for you to stand for a member of parliament, you should be able to pay 3 million Ugandan shillings, which young people do not have. So just the cost of contesting and all these other things, when you couple that with the unemployment, you couple it with the power dynamics, and you couple that with the patronage, which is in politics, you add in the politics of godfathers and godmothers. So that is not the place that young people can be able to afford, but that's not withstanding. At least we saw some young people trying, and for those that did, we just appreciate them.
Okay. Now, apart from the financial challenges facing young people, are there other hindering factors to young people associating politics?
I think the other hindering factors are the power dynamics that I talked about, but also maybe we'll talk about how society views a young person. So if I stand and young people will not listen to my idea, the first thing they will see is this is Ruth Asiimwe and she's a young person. What is she going to do? Her time has not yet come. This is our time. When her time comes, she will be able to lead. So there is that society perception. But then also there is the problem of young people themselves. I saw candidates, I saw young people who were offering themselves as candidates, but they had no idea of what they wanted to do. You ask them what they want, what are you going to achieve, and they cannot properly articulate what they want to achieve for their constituency. They are not developed well as leaders. They did not have mentors or someone to show them the right direction. So there was that issue of the young people themselves not being articulate enough, not prepared to lead. And then there was how society views them. And then there was the power aspect, the other actors like the churches, the Interreligious Council of Uganda, and then the other actors who play a major role in the politics of the country. And we do not see the young person as someone who can be able to fully represent. And then I think the other problem that is costing young people is that in Uganda we have 5 places for youth MPs. So the entire Uganda, where we have young people as the majority, 78% being under 35 and 21% of those being youth aged between 19 to 30. We see that when it comes to parliament, to representation for them in parliament, we are among the minority groups in parliament, and every region they send one young person to represent. So it is 5 young or youth members of parliament. So when a young person stands in a constituency, they'll be like, you know what, there is this position for youth member of parliament for the region. Why don't you go for it? So they are pushed to these other positions, and yet they can be able to do much more beyond the 5 that are available for them.
Okay. Just apart from the 5 slots set aside for young people, looking at politics at political parties level, what are some of the affirmative actions put in place to ensure that young people are in political parties and also have a say in the decision making under the political parties?
Yes, so there is definitely the youth wings. Every political party, the Forum for Democratic Change, the National Resistance Movement, the Alliance for National Transformation, and even these all other parties in Uganda, they have the youth wing, and they have a national youth coordinator. But I think they are there, but they do not play much of a role. It's more of it's just knowing that as a party we also recognizing. But I think their leaders, for example, the coordinator of a youth wing, will be even space to talk. But the rest of the people, the rest of the young people in that party who are youth will not be given their same space. So political parties still have a greater role to play in terms of that. But also when it comes to the actual decision making in the political party itself, you'll find that the youth are the least to be consulted. And even when they are consulted, their decisions are not taken on.
Okay.
So but there is room for us to do better in the political party.
Okay, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot talk about politics without looking at the gender factor when it comes to politics. And my follow-up questions are going to be focusing on women participation in the elections in Uganda. Just looking at the past elections, what's the space for young women in politics?
Yes, the place for young women is a third place for young women in politics. Just in the last parliament, women were only 34% of the entire numbers in parliament. And yes, I do not know where to start from, because I think beyond I know that it's space to start, but the women's space isn't that, because as a woman, it's a very for a woman member of parliament or any other seat at the district or at the national level, there is a lot that is expected of you for being a woman. So if the two of us offered ourselves, people will first look at me, where is she from, who is she married to, how does she put on, but how does she speak? So first of all, society will judge you, and they will judge you very harshly. So because of that, there are many women that will pull away. And then secondly, you find that as a woman, you juggle with many things. You have family at home and family, maybe children. Apart from children, then you have a husband taking care of children and taking care of the husband. And then you have to go out there and represent people who are always second doubting your intentions. She's going to be there for us. And away from all that, we see that because there is this tokenistic representation of a woman, a member of parliament, the affirmative action, and I think we've been talking about it. Is it really helping the athletic people, youth, or for women? We find that most of the women, they would rather go for the woman member of parliament. They will not go for the mainstream position. Actually, out of the 553 positions that for MPs we have in Uganda, it is they are not more than 20 women who have gone for the mainstream path. And every time a woman goes for a mainstream position, they will be asked, why mainstream? Why don't you go for this other position? And then we have another problem of these women members of parliament who have been in parliament for the last 20 years. The Speaker of Parliament for Uganda, I will give us a very good example. So we have Rebecca Kantaka, Speaker of Parliament for the last 15 years, very articulate, as if she can afford to step out in her district and stand for a mainstream position. But we find her up to today, she's still contesting for woman, coming woman member of parliament. And you're like, you should give and that space to another woman and reduce the resources that you have to go in for the mainstream politics. So the women who are already there are a problem themselves. They want to stay in just those conditions. They're not allowing space for other women to come in. And then the women have to juggle a lot of things in between. And also when they get to parliament, it's also a whole new kind of the way they work. There's a lot that goes on in parliament that they have to juggle with. So at the end of the day, you find that most of the women have pulled out. And of course, there is this question of money. Just as we are saying that you do not have the money, even the women do not have the resources. They are also hurting when it comes to issues of money. So they do not have enough money to be able to contest. They're already judged by society. There are things that they're doing at home, taking care of the home and all that. They are asked who is it that they're married to. There are all these other funny persons that they're being asked. So they just decide to stay away sometimes.
Okay. Now, merging the first question, you talked about being a feminist and the rise of feminism. You kindly just briefly talk about how feminism has affected politics, the current politics, positively or even negatively.
Yeah, so I think even the numbers that we have right now of women going in other positions, standing in other positions, this trend you talked about, to go for a position, not as a woman member of parliament, is because of feminism, or another people want, which is the word, the gender advocacy that we've been doing. So I think women are now being helped to say, you know what, it is okay. You can go and dress not dress the way you dress, but you can wear the dress today and put it on another day, and it is still okay. And then feminism also looks at the mental health. So the women are being helped to, love themselves, take care of themselves, and create time for themselves to reflect. And then we have the women that we look out to, and they are starting to come in as a result of feminism, asking them, you can come and help the sister. So we have an entire women's movement that is helping sisters. I should say in Uganda last year we had to collect money as women. We're like, you know what, we understand our issues. We need our sisters there. And once they're there, they'll be able to push for our policies. So who are our sisters that are progressive, that when they get to parliament, they will not forget us? And we collected money and we sponsored their campaign, because campaigns, it's not just about praise or somebody and don't campaign for them, it's about money. So we collected money and gave them. But also there are policies and what that we've been really working towards to ensure that at least they create an enabling environment specifically for the women to be able to go to parliament and other positions. And I think what I forgot to mention is that we had a woman presidential candidate. So and really you could see how she was struggling. They could really play the political journey of all these other candidates that were there, the height of them. But the woman was not given a lot of media coverage, and they will not say it, but they know it's because she was a woman. But still she persevered, and she had people who were looking out for her. She had fellow women who went and helped her to be her agent. So she had people who were supporting her, and most of those people were actually feminist. And that's what we are all about, supporting one another to make sure that at least someone gets to that top. And when there, we can be able to hold each other's hand.
Now, as a young person who has been in the governance sector for a while, and also a representative from civil society organization, what's your say? How can we strengthen young people participation in politics generally in Uganda and here regionally?
So the way we can strengthen young people's participation in politics is first of all telling the young people that it is possible. And then also if we could change the narrative around politics, because the narrative right now is that, politics is a dirty game, it's a dirty place, it's a place of patronage, it's a place of power play and all that. So if maybe as research and other actors, we first of all will write the narrative about politics. And we know that politics can be better, can have politics of values. And there is this particular president in Uganda that is for the Alliance for National Transformation. He brought in that aspect that we can actually have a value-based kind of system. So that will encourage young people to get there. But then also we need to identify, and it is okay for us, even as civil society and other actors, to identify who are the young people that we know if we can invest in them, if we can give them the right training, if we can find them the right mentors during their time running for office, we can find them the right coaches, but we also have to be coached during that time. So if we identify those who are progressing from our student movement, from the other associations and the political parties, and we mentor them, and these are the people who are going to represent us, that can also be very good. I think, mainly that writing the narrative, identifying those and supporting them, giving them the training, and I think we'll get there.
What's your advice for young people interested in politics, and especially those young women?
So my advice for young people who are interested in politics is it's really just offer yourself. And I think we just completed an election, and that was the time for us to offer ourselves as leaders. And for those of us that did not offer ourselves, really we have no right to complain about who is in parliament. But all hope is not lost. I know for sure that political participation does not end with an election. I think this is an opportunity for us to engage more in the politics of the country. Already the politicians are in parliament already talking of extending their term, from 5 years to 7 years. That is something that young people should be able to stand to, and also start thinking ahead of 2026. What is it that we want to achieve as young people? What issues do we want to be addressed? Who among us can be able to lead? How do we support them? But also across our journey from now up to 2026, let's engage and fight and talk about others. Because every time there is an injustice and you see the injustice and you keep quiet, you lose your dignity. Let's all raise our voices and participate in the governance of our country. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today to our speaker session. I think all of you heard from our guest the real experience of how politics work in Uganda and the current situation in the region. Kindly subscribe to our social media pages, Youth Agenda, Facebook, Youth Agenda on Twitter, and even on YouTube, it's Youth Agenda. Thank you so much. See you next time.